All right, so get a clear picture of what I'm talking about by the big gloom. Have you seen, can you think of examples now of the big gloom that you've seen read in other books, seen in other movies? Any particular moments anyone wants to bring up? It's a pretty identifiable moment once you know what it is, generally. And in your own projects, it's just kind of the big thing is, this hinges around this structure and this kind of moment, here we'll get to in just a second, is really what kind of gives your narrative focus. You know, it needs to highlight the struggle, but this, if you kind of lose the big gloom in the first Supreme Ordeal, what you end up with is kind of a tale that doesn't really have the right focus of the challenges. Not executing this kind of section right, Supreme Ordeal into the big gloom, has a lot to do with kind of the impact and how successful and how focused your narrative is. Ironically, your narrative can be more focused and not have this thing as far as you think, and it will look more unfocused. It will, because this helps clarify the themes. And he's used that moment. Not only is this whole section used in a way to highlight that he's losing and he's having struggles, but we're talking a lot about the themes of, remember he said he wanted to write the show to show somebody who wrote their way up. So this is very specifically a moment where he couldn't, as Professor Drake pointed, write his way out. The themes are about who tells your story, how are you remembered, and so we have a whole big moment here that is unwritten and defined. So he marries these themes and these ideas into what this struggle is. Yeah, do you have a?
Oh, I was just going to make a reference to, you said a movie or something.
Yeah.
In Casablanca, when Humphrey Bogart, after she comes back and whatever, and then he sees her, and then he's sitting there drinking and asks the piano player to play that song, and he's in all the gym joints in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of a gloomy pity kind of thing. Yeah, that came from.
So this is yep.
One of the things I want to point about this song too is that it's told by the chorus, and we haven't really talked about that much. Maybe you want to elaborate on that. But I mean, not everyone here is writing a play, and perhaps nobody is. And so within a play, there's often, a chorus which helps tell the story of the perspective of outsiders. But even within a novel or other types of dramatic literature, you have these minor characters, these background characters that can help tell a story. And here, they're the narrators, and they're talking directly to the audience. And I think if you're writing a play, that's a really interesting, old tactic. But it's also something that you can use in other types of fiction, in terms of allowing minor characters to make observations that you don't want or need your main characters to have to literally come out and say.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Truly is the function of the Greek chorus, which is kind of evolved into the Broadway musical chorus. It is a function that is allowed to speak directly to the audience and represent the people. And while they may not do as direct commentary, the chorus in Broadway shows often serves that same function. Oftentimes, the big group numbers are more directly aimed at the audience. They're directing some of the bigger societal issues. Even though Angelica sings a lot of this, it's really more as the lead in the chorus and the people than as the character Angelica. In the thing, I firmly believe they just gave it to her to give one of the stars another big song, but this is just as effectively straight up a chorus number where they're just talking about how awful the situation is and bringing that home. But yeah, there is a technique. Whether small characters or the same thing, sometimes just who is the narrator of your story. Even if you're writing from a third party, omniscient, person on the thing, that doesn't mean you can't put in an attitude, and the angle and the direction of what you're pushing. So just because you're omniscient doesn't mean you have no point of view. So if you are writing in first person, obviously your character has a point of view, but if you're writing omniscient, there's no reason you can't give this omniscient narrator a perspective.
And that's something, and Professor Gilbo and I are developing some of the criteria or sort of rubric that we're looking for as we work on, as you turn in your own work. And one of the things that's important is some sort of consistent narrator. So whatever it is, it just has to be consistent. But you have so many options to choose from in terms of how you're going to narrate your story.
And to clarify, as long as we're talking about that, your grade, based on this rubric, right now you should be just focused on the graded project.
Yeah.
The rubric is meant to guide you on your rewrite. Any grade you get according to the rewrite, getting to the, so to speak, your first draft you turn in is fixable. It's like, this is your temporary, this is like, if you were to do nothing else at the moment, this is the grade you got. But you can rewrite according to the rubric, which is part of the assignment anyway that you're supposed to rewrite. Yeah.
So does it still go in as like an actual grade, or is it just like a preliminary grade first to know what to?
It's a preliminary grade, it will be, yeah, it'll go in this actual grade at the moment, but it's, you know, not, but like I said, it is all changeable. And one of the grades too is your maximum is 75%, because 25% will be the rewrite itself. So nobody can get more than a C on the first portion. Like I said, basically a grade in progress.
So I was looking at the syllabus and we were trying to figure out, is that date, like, is it November or something when that first draft is due?
It's October 31st.
October 31st?
Yeah.
And that's the first portion. Like I said, there's gonna be, you're doing a
That's
quarter.
the first draft.
Yeah.
Well, no, the first section. You're not. You don't have to hand in the whole thing at once. So you're actually handing your first section, and then your next section, and then your last section. Because we don't expect you to be done with it by October 31st.
The beginning, middle, and end, that's how
Yes.
we're doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the second assignment will be the longest, but the first quarter is the leading up to the crossing the threshold. The next assignment you'll turn in will be the whole test allies enemies up through the road back. And then the final assignment will be the road back, essentially where we're about to start right now, until the end. So there's a pretty clear road. Sometimes the road back is more clear than others. Sometimes the road back is also referred to as seizing the sword. The reward, this said, it's where that piece of information comes clear. Well, you know, what do we get? What is the new tool we have to get back on track? And in this track will be Hamilton's goals for the government, his ambitions, his everything else. So, this is, so we are going to listen to the election of 1800.